Hello, and welcome to Check It Out, Comrade, an indie game podcast where every 2 weeks we bring you 2 indie games and tell you what we like about them. I'm Nick Lauber.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this week we're doing Tower of Guns and Roundabout.
Yeah, Nick, why don't you tell me what is cool about Tower of Guns?
Sure. So it's actually kind of, very similar to Paranautical Activity, which we reviewed earlier. It's a first-person shooter that brings a lot of roguelike-y elements and Isaac-y feel to the gameplay. So there's a lot of pickups and like gun mods and improvements and stuff, randomized levels, although the rooms are statically laid out. They're in a random order every time. And it also reminded me a lot of like Serious Sam, in that it's a lot of like jumping, running, gunning, with a lot of like hidden secrets to find through invisible walls and stuff. So it's a nice mix of some fun stuff. So if you like those things, then you'll probably like this thing.
Yeah, this has been out for a while actually.
Yeah,
this came out last March, and it's interesting. Like it came for free with my PS Plus,
right?
Which like I wouldn't have, except that I want to play Bloodborne online. So I tried this before we decided to do it for the show, and like immediately put it down when I like kind of got bummed out by it. Right. And then when we decided to do it for the show, I gave it more of a chance, and like it's not without merit, right? But I have some issues with it. Like I think it's a cool idea, and we talked before about how like roguelikes, you can kind of add that stuff to anything almost. And I really like Paranautical Activity. This is like to me, it is missing a lot of the like personality of that game.
Yeah.
Like the thing, like when you play Paranautical Activity, you're doing all this like circle strafing and doom stuff, and that's what this is trying to do too, with like the secrets and the waves of enemies. But without the kind of like the visuals and the driving soundtrack and stuff. Like
exactly,
this is one of the blandest games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the mechanics are all there. Visually, It is boring as fuck.
It is just like just like the Unity starter kit, like the game.
Yeah,
like it's literally like I'm doing this stuff in Unity, and you download something called the Science Room, and it looks like just a shitty rejected Half-Life level, and that's exactly what this looks like. Like everything just has these like overly busy textures on it, like mecha textures.
Yeah,
and there's just it is so boring looking.
So the developer tried to, and so this was developed by Terrible Posture Games, who is one guy, Joe Mirabello, and he tried to roll in how boring the visuals are into the setting for the game, because everything is just plastered with these cannons, like really generic 3D cannons, and all of the bosses are just various like layouts and big spheres and huge walls of these cannons. So it doesn't get any more visually appealing than that. Like, yeah. So I applaud him for trying to make the best of it, but it's not good to look at, and it doesn't hold your attention because there's no good sound quality and there's no interesting visuals.
And like there's some bad kinesthetic stuff going on too. Like the guns feel weak. You know, like there's no sense of like impact or anything like that. Like little things like when you shoot a gun, like maybe it moves your character a little bit or something like that. Like all that stuff that makes shooting a gun feel satisfying.
Right.
Isn't there? Like you have a triple jump in this game, but your jump height is so small that like it doesn't feel very empowering.
Right.
You can't get very high doing it. Like there's all these like little problems that are a shame, because some of the stuff that it's doing is really cool. Like it steals the weapon upgrade system from Cave Story.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, which like is cool because I don't see that very often. Like you level up your gun with the experience essentially that you get, and then that can be de-leveled as well. So like
as you take damage, you
get this kind of like rich get richer, and the difficulty is somehow dynamic too. You can find pickups that increase or reduce it. And that in turn plays with how much experience you get. So like that stuff is all really neat. It's just like it's just not very fun to play. Like the feeling of fun like isn't there for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I like it a lot mechanically. Like the jump thing is addressed a little bit in that jump is another power up you get. So you can get like I don't know 5+ jumps in the air, so that like to reach all these like secret areas and stuff, you can just continually jump and jump if you get all the upgrades for it. So I don't know. Like I think the mechanics are solid, even though it's like pick and choose good stuff from a bunch of different games. If only it had a better visual direction and theming, to make it actually interesting for these mechanics to put these mechanics can't survive on their own. They need an interesting world. And
it's like it's one half of what it needed to be. And mechanically, like, I like it. I think I'm a little bit cooler on it than you are. Like, one of the things that bothered me about it was this kind of bullet hell existing in like a set room. Like, so like you play like Serious Sam and you're dealing with waves upon waves of enemies. They very rarely like you're usually in a corridor.
Yeah.
And they don't come from above and they don't come from behind very often.
Yeah, you're right. Just play with Z level a little bit too much.
I kept getting hit from behind, and like some of the later like cannon stuff you run into, depending on like your upgrades or your kind of mobility, you can get hit in the back with a cannon and just do like a huge chunk of your health.
Yeah, and there's also these I know there's some guns that like spit out these purple homing missiles that you can't destroy. They're like otherworldly. Yeah, and those are annoying as piss. And there's no like, I don't know, there's no responsiveness to the fact that that's attacking you.
Yeah.
There's no like this is the big bad guy who's shooting this shit that you need to get out first or anything.
Exactly. Like it all kind of plays into that game feel thing. Like there's not a good sense of where the threats are. And by the time you take, you ascertain that in the room, you can very easily, be dead.
Yeah.
Or nearly dead. Like the game is pretty generous with like health pickups, but you have to kill things for that. And if there are these invincible bullets, or if you just literally don't know where to go, like each room kind of becomes this, how do I find the stairwell? How do I find the pathing to get up to where I can get a clear shot at these turrets?
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it just kind of, I like, it's all these like frustrating little tweaks.
I agree. Yeah.
It needs, like the gameplay is almost there. The aesthetics, I would start over. Like I would literally just like erase everything
and start over
and just put new skins on literally everything and write an entirely new soundtrack.
Yeah. And then just play test it for a year.
Yeah.
And tweak all those little things.
I mean, that would make this really, really cool, because the thing about, like, as much as I liked Paranormal Activity, almost went in the other direction too much. Like there's a lot of mechanical depth to it, but it didn't have this cool weapon upgrade system. Like it didn't have the health regen that made it like, Paranormal Activity is really hard. And when you die, if you don't have a good lucky run, you die really quick.
Yeah.
But what it did right was, visuals. Once you got, visuals, soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
And then like when you get into a room, you know immediately what to do.
Right.
It's like, okay, I need to get a clear shot of these things. I have to move quickly, but like I move quickly, I can. Whereas like Tower of Guns, it feels like you have this more kind of slower considered pace and a game around you that demands a faster pace.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, like it has tons of potential. Like I wish that this game wasn't a year old. I wish it had just come out.
Yeah.
So I would think that like
perhaps so that there's more stuff going into it that we're aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was going to be patched and changed a little bit, because it is very cool. Like there are a lot of neat things about it. But just it's not. It just doesn't feel very good to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. and not like it didn't feel like the worst thing in the world. It just didn't feel great.
I agree. I agree. It's 100% not a solid game all around. I like a lot of things it does. I think it combines the mechanics in an interesting way, but it's too flawed of a game overall to keep my attention.
Yeah, and it's very impressive that it's done by one dude.
Yeah,
like that's great. Like this is really impressive. Like you made a working game with a really interesting upgrade system. So far, like that I found like pretty interesting weapons that all play pretty differently, and a couple of interesting power ups. That I've seen. Like I would want more of all that stuff, but you've done like, Terrible Posture Games did a bunch of really cool shit for just being one dude. Just go further and do a layer of polish, but he probably doesn't have to,
he's considered it done at this point. It's sold all the copies it's going to sell and everything.
Yeah. There's a thing where like you can, and it comes up with early access a lot of the time. And it comes up with like, it came up with, what is it? Sir, You Were Being Hunted, where like that game didn't complete its features. Eventually just like, he just said, well, it's just done, and like didn't add very much.
Right.
And the early access version we played for the show is the completed version.
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, same thing happened with Paranautical. They promised a whole bunch more. They promised co-op, which we hyped a bunch in the episode. Yeah. And then they just dropped it.
Yeah, so like there is early access is a weird ethical thing that we talked about before on the show, but it's weird as a critic and as a fan, but it's also really strange from a developer side because once you have the money, like I've made this product, I've been paid this much money for it, seems very tempting to like just do a nominal improvement and back the fuck out.
Yeah.
You know, like you've made a profit and you probably want to work on other shit because like between both those games, like Paranautical is a really small team. This is one guy. Like they obviously have talent. They probably want to do something with it,
right?
And they just don't want to keep refining their thing. But like, it's one of those times when like the difference between like a really polished, indie game and something that is a little less so kind of comes out. Like because this stole the weapon upgrade system from Cave Story, which is a perfect example. Like one dude working between 1 and 4 a.m.
Yeah, and never told anyone about it
3 years,
it was done.
And it's a masterpiece.
Yeah,
like Cave Story couldn't be really improved, whereas this game, there's so much room for improvement that it makes the fact that it hasn't done so, like, or the things it does right, kind of more tragic.
I agree. Yeah, that's actually, I've heard that before. Like, if you want to truly finish a project, never tell anyone that you're doing it.
Yeah,
like you can't. You get a semi sense of accomplishment just by saying, "Hey guys, I'm doing this thing." Like the fact that you're at a point where you're announcing it already fills your brain with those like relieving, like doing it qualities. So when you do something like early access, it's real easy to just be like, "Nah, man, I'm done." Like,
yeah, you get a simulacrum of like the feeling of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. Like you get kind of a cheaper version of it. And some people like, people's workflow changes. Like some people need that because it can hold them accountable.
Right.
But I think one of the things that happens is that with early access and with these game things, it's like they probably do have friends who are holding them accountable and supporting them, but they also probably have a legion of assholes who are just,
bashing it left and right.
Exactly, like entitled video game people. And then like it's very easy to think like, why even bother?
Right.
Like it takes, for every, what I don't know what the actual, there's a calculation to it. Like for every, how many positive comments it takes to balance out a negative one.
Yeah.
Cause we take negative comments more. So I think
Absolutely.
That happens sometimes. Like that strength they get from being held accountable just gets drowned out by a wave of 7 out of 10 Steam asshole reviews.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I think it's worth playing. It was free if you had PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, and
that's
cool. It's been dead cheap on Steam in a bunch of bundles. So
worth playing. I wish it wasn't over though. Like it's going to be hard to go back because between like Paranautical, which didn't get this perfect, and this game which didn't get perfect, like I'm still waiting for like my FPS Isaac like.
I agree.
To come down, but this is close.
Give me the visuals of Paranautical or the audio of Paranautical. Give me the cool feature set of this game, and then just add a million items for me to like.
Exactly. Like even Paranautical, which didn't have enough items, you got them more frequently than you get them in this game.
Yeah.
Like it took me, before I unlocked the first gun, I did like 3 dying runs, and I only unlocked the first gun because I tried the shitty basic starter pistol that they say not to try.
Right.
So I got the shotgun, which was really cool. But like the stream of upgrades is really slow. Whereas like, I just, Isaac's coming out for 3DS and Wii U, and I'll probably buy it so I can play it in bed. And, I'm looking forward to like just that really amazing steady drip of like, this has been unlocked in the basement. This has been unlocked in the basement.
Yeah.
Which just happens at such a good curve in the beginning.
Yeah. No, I agree. I want something like that in an FPS. It hasn't been done yet, despite all the attempts.
Yeah. So not done perfectly, done with, not to totally put this guy on blast or put you on blast if you like it, people are listening, but it's just not quite there.
Right. Here's the thing. Gary and I are complete addicts of Isaac. I finally finished my hard mode post-it notes on everybody today.
Okay, excellent.
So like, we're just looking for stuff that scratches that itch perfectly, and when something's close but falls short, it hurts.
Yeah, it's a real bummer.
So
I still will pick up have been playing like a short Isaac run. Like if I just need to watch a YouTube, like I need to relax, I'm still playing it, and I'm not even trying to get achievements anymore. It's just there.
Yeah,
like it's just this comforting constant. And I would love to have a new comforting constant that was a little bit dangerous and I could get into.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
So anywho,
All right, so with that, let's talk about Roundabout a little bit. First up, Brayton Cameron, our podcast network friend, has been also like friend in real life that we play RPGs with every week. He has been talking about this game for like months now.
Yeah, he keeps. I was really wondering what his connection was to it, like how he heard about it, where it came from. It was in the spirit of disclosure, he gifted it.
Yeah, he did
to us, which is very very kind of him. And when I first kind of like just hearing the title and looking at the Steam page, I didn't really like. I went into this pretty blind.
Yeah, me too.
And was just like, what is Brayden going on about? And like I think in the end, like I think I dig it.
I dig it.
It's going to be interesting. I am expecting, if not a blowback, because this show doesn't quite have the listener base to get a blowback, but like get some kind of controversy or something about the fact that like, and I don't know, I can't speak for you because me and Nick don't often talk about the games before we record.
Right.
Disclosure. Like this game works for me in a comedy sense in a way that Jazz Punk doesn't.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people are going to be like, you fucking hypocrites. Like,
yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing today because we had that Twitter chat with Jenny and Riff and them.
Yeah, and they liked it and we didn't, and that's fine. But I wonder if they don't like this, and because I think this is pretty funny.
I think it's pretty funny too. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing about this game that I think comes out more. Even when the comedy falls short, the game in a whole feels like they just had a blast making it.
It is the way I was thinking about it is that it is a YouTube bait, like PewDiePie game that actually has a good game behind it.
Yeah.
Like it's got the kind of like, car wreck on the side of the road, watch a goofy looking dude screech about it appeal that like Goat Simulator does, but with just like an actual game behind it. Like it's not like a deep game. It's not complicated, but there is like satisfying play to be had underneath all of the goofiness and dumb random violence that actually like the goofiness and the story part is actually pretty appealing to me. And the dumb just like running stuff over thing that's been done 1,000 times like is really easy to fade into the background.
Right.
But like once you get past those two things, like, it's actually kind of a fun game. In like a really arcadey sense.
Yeah, so a little bit about this game. It's made by these guys called No Goblin, who was started by Dan Teasdale, who worked in AAA stuff for a long time. He apparently worked on Rock Band and The Gunstringer and Destroy All Humans, according to his site. And this game is it is this arcadey game where you play a taxi driver who
a limousine driver.
Oh, sorry, yeah, a limousine driver. Where the limousine is always spinning, and you have to move with the spins to navigate around obstacles and do these very crazy taxi style missions where you just go pick someone up and they want you to take them to this place, and you have to avoid all this stuff. And then the other main big thing about it is that every one of these missions starts off, and the game starts off with these really cheesy B-movie FMVs. With the silent protagonist female named Giorgio.
Yeah, it's like the 70s kind of grindhouse aesthetic of like the kind, not even grindhouse. It's like the 70s like talking movies.
Yeah,
and the humor in that is like it's not super subtle, but it's also like it's not broad either.
Right,
it's just like weird. Like it's it's like the dialogue is really stiff. But there's no like references to memes or anything like that. Like it is just very played straightforward, but everyone just accepts like the idea of a limousine that spins around all the time is really cool.
Yeah.
And we didn't really like, it's kind of hard to explain. Like it literally rotates like the arms of a clock or like a twister board, but it does that all the time. And you can drive it regardless of that. So you can just drive to the right and it will be like a spinning blade that you're steering. And the gameplay comes down to maneuvering it around things that you can and cannot smash by essentially doing like turnabouts.
Right.
Like either like doing literal roundabouts, like going around a circle and exiting the other side, or backing into somewhere and pulling out.
Yeah. So
as you spin.
Have you played any games like this, Gary?
No.
Okay. So this is, I think this is a really obscure game, but I'm not sure. on the Game Boy Advance, back in my like Game Boy Advance piracy days, where I just played like everything because I had nothing better to do with my time. There's this game called Kuru Kuru Kukurin. That was a Japanese game where you played this little alien in a spaceship that was always spinning and navigating through these hallways in the exact same way you play this game. And it was popular enough in Japan to get a sequel and another sequel that was on the GameCube, I think, but neither of those came to Europe or America. Only the original did.
Okay.
So as soon as I started playing this game, I had to remember the name of that game and looked it up. And I believe the main guy in this company did say that they were inspired by that game. Obviously, this adds a lot more to it. It wasn't like these. It was more of a puzzle game. Like you had a starting point and an end point in each level, and you just had to navigate through and get to it in the fastest time possible. So this is something that has been done before, but it's weird that these guys just like found this game and then adopted it to be about a limousine and this B-movie stuff.
Yeah, and then on top of that, just like the kind of shitty goat simulator, like running people over stuff.
Yeah,
which like in a weird way, like if I look at this through a really charitable lens, like is actually like a really shrewd marketing thing because, you know, PewDiePie can make or break people like game, you know, like that. Well, success can live or die on PewDiePie because he's one of the most popular entertainers in the world, bar none, weirdly enough. So like kind of making this game that has like a legit, like non-shitty offbeat humor and gameplay, but then hiding it under like a low watch as we smash and run over stuff that will actually get the YouTube, you know, the Markipliers to play it on their channel is kind of like shrewd. Like I can almost imagine, like I want to have good faith in these developers that like they had the best of intentions, but also knew like this is going to sell them copies. And I bet it did. Like I haven't looked it up, but like I imagine, like I'm gonna put in PewDiePie right now.
Yeah, do it
and see if
let's play some what you googling.
Yeah, what you googling? What you googling? Let me see if he's got. Why is nothing? He does a cover of "You Spin Me Right Round." Roundabout Deluxe plus Markiplier. So Markiplier did it.
Okay.
Who's a lot like a PewDiePie.
Yeah, he's the miniature version.
Yeah, he's little PewDiePie. Yeah, but it is so, you know, essentially the same thing.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Like you're right. Like I did think that like the random people everywhere that you just, you know, pedestrians that you just drive over felt kind of unneeded and didn't really add anything, but I didn't think about it as like a YouTube bait.
That's what it felt like to me. And that's, you know, maybe more cynical than they actually were. Like maybe they just thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
But to me, it was the part, like the division between the appeal of that and the appeal of the actual like story sequences and stuff was just very, very clear. Like it's never like laugh out loud funny. It never tries to be. It's just like offbeat in a way that's really charming. Like it's also, we should note that like the central love story in it is a lesbian love story.
Yeah, which is cool.
Which is pretty rad. Yeah. Like the you know, like cool lady protagonist, and it's not made a big deal of. Like
it's played very, very low key, and it's perfect.
Played straight for lack of like not trying to make a double.
Oh, look at that dumb pun.
Yeah, exactly. Not trying to go for that, but
I got a little bit later in the game. Did you get the jump ability at all?
No.
So I got to a little bit further than you did, to where you get a jump ability, which actually it makes it adds a lot to the game, makes it a lot of fun. The later levels where you have the jump ability, but there are actually some portions where I did think it was laugh out loud funny, and I wish you had gotten to that point. Because
I'm still gonna play it. Like I'm not done now. I'm just done.
Okay.
Before we had to record,
because they're a real goofy gag involving like really goofy like some semi drug references and like Giorgio somewhat tripping a passenger in the back seat. I think you'll love. Okay. Because it's very Gary, and you understand what I mean when you get there.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it because I did have to like. You know, I didn't get to put in very much time just because of the constraints of this week.
Right.
But it was a game where like I did have to kind of tear myself away from it to do other stuff and to record.
Yeah, I was playing up until you were like, "All right, I'm ready." So yeah, it's fun. It's really goofy. I enjoy. I looked at their their website when I was like looking up this game, and there was like a call for actors. So it's obvious they just got people who were like people they know and friends to come in and be passengers. and it shows, but everybody's just playing it straight, and it's fantastic.
I like two things I thought of with this is like, one, I want to see it speedrun.
Yeah,
like it has that kind of like mechanical, like you could get really good at this, and the game wants you to. Like as soon as you finish one of the trips, it tells you how you compare to your friends.
Yeah,
who play it and everything. But two, the other thing I thought of is like this game, in a way that the other game that we did for the show, Illustrated, is like a real triumph of polish. Like the where you like the ends of your routes always are right next to the beginning of a new one. Like it just like the way that it's designed, like the flow works really well.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole experience comes across as like just like really top notch for being like that subgenre of like this controls goofily, you know, indie game.
And I mean, and as B movie and as like not professional actors, as all the scenes are, like it all does have this like overlying storyline that's going on, and everything fits together. And there's like reoccurring characters and everything. Like, so one good little gag right at the beginning is the love interest girl. The first time you pick her up, she's like going to a wedding and like putting on makeup.
Yeah, that's great.
So you don't see her at all while you're doing the driving, but when she gets in the car, she's like got a brush and like lipstick on. And then in the scene afterwards, when you drop her off, she's got like a big lipstick smear across her face, and nobody says anything about it.
Yeah, it's really subtle. And then like also when you meet her, you write down her name on a piece of paper for some reason because your character doesn't talk. And then when you guys have gotten closer, you just like she takes it from you and crosses off the first part.
Yeah.
So her name is Elizabeth, but you can call her Beth, and she does this by crossing out.
That's so cute, dude.
The thing, like the part with the drive-in, the guy who's going to the date, who like hires a driver to drop them off at the drive-in, and like you just crank the wheel to knock them into each other.
Yeah,
is like super cute too. Like it just like the way that everyone loves you and is just like on board for this super dumb concept. Like it is such a like it's such a dumb, like it looks so nauseating. Like everything about it looks like a nightmare, but everyone is just like, this is the coolest shit.
Yeah,
in a total like non-winky way, you know.
Right. It's great. I can't put like all these things we've said still don't quite pinpoint what is actually good about it, but
it really needs to be kind of played, and like the barrier. For me, the point in which it made sense and was good was really quick.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I started doing the thing, like I crashed a couple times, and then once I figured out how I needed to navigate space, I was like, okay, this is cool.
Right.
And then it just kind of kept going with the stuff that I already liked.
And even if you're like, even if it never quite clicks for you and you can't quite navigate, it's one of those games that, we praise all the time where you just start immediately respawn at the previous checkpoint, and all you don't get is the bonus points at the end for not crashing at all.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the super low stakes, even this down to the stuff you spend money on, because as far as I can tell, the things you spend money on are aesthetic and collectibles.
Yes.
So like having that penalty of getting a bad score doesn't mean anything. Right. Like it's not like a crazy tax or like do at least this well. No, it doesn't really care. Like it just wants you to go through it and do it as well as you feel like, which I always appreciate as somebody who, is a real proponent of like good enough when it comes to performance in games. Like I just want to get through the thing. I don't usually care about my score.
This is like the first game I've played that feels like would be perfect in an arcade, but also an arcade that never takes quarters.
Yeah.
Like it has no quarter eating aspect to it, but everything about it feels like the perfect arcade machine game.
You could make it like you could turn into a quarter eating game, but that would be a little bit of a bummer. But it's still like I would still put a couple of quarters into it probably. Yeah. Whenever I was at ground control or wherever.
Right.
I dig it. Like I like it and I want to play more of it. It's pretty short too. Like I mean, I think that you can beat it in not too long of a time. So
I'm in the last area that the map is like separated into 3 islands that are connected, and I'm in the section that the story takes the big dive, and you end up in the last portion like secluded, and it's great. But so I'm on that portion of the map, so I'm pretty sure I'm really close to the end, and then all the rest of the percentage on the like completion percentage is all just getting all the checks on all of the challenges. So
yeah, which I don't care about, and I love how it's optional.
I'm not going to 100% this game, but I want to see what happens to Giorgio.
Yeah, so I dig it. Like I'm into this. We want to do something that wasn't specifically dark.
Yeah.
and we liked after the last episode. So that's good. And still, a couple people have asked me about Pillars of Eternity, which I think we're still going towards. Like, we will do a Wasteland-esque like full episode on that.
Right.
I have been playing it, but it's huge.
It's huge.
So we're either gonna have to we're either gonna have to cut and just do an impressions episode, or it's gonna come out in like 6 months because it is longer than like Baldur's Gate. Like, it's longer than its inspirations.
Yeah. And I think even we'd still need to do at least one more episode before I could get to the impressions part, just because So, yeah, I don't know. Well, we're definitely going to do it. We both backed it. We're both, like, going to play it. And everything I've played so far of it, I think is great. But... it's real good. Yeah. Like, I really love it. So, that is going to be, that's going to be real fun. I'm 9 hours in. Yeah, so, I probably put, like, 4 in, and I need to restart. It was, like, right when it first came out, so... That's the thing too, is that game has some real like restart. Yeah, I'm just committing to not doing it, but I've wanted to. Yeah, well, they've patched some stuff that happened, like some major bugs and stuff that would make it worthwhile for me to restart too. So yeah, well, and also you probably just the classes a little bit better. Yeah. So and who you're going to meet, so you can fill in the blanks. Like early on, like I met a character who is my class, so it's a little bit of a bummer. Like, I need to take you along. I can do that shit. Who are you playing now? I'm playing as a ranger. Nice. But I just didn't read, even though you run into a ranger fairly quickly, I decided to send her back to, let her cool her jets. But they did something kind of crazy and made bards cool, which never happens. Like, it happened in Darkest Dungeon. Oh, yeah, I guess bards are good. Yeah, I guess that's true. I meant in like an Infinity Engine-y, like Dungeon and Dragon-y experience. They are good in Darkest Dungeon, though. That's a game I don't want to have fall prey to that like easy access, early access, like we're done. Right. And just stop doing things. Dude, I think there's so much fucking content in that game it could now, and I still would never get like that far in it. There's so much content to that game. Yeah. But I agree. They could develop it forever for all I care. I just want it to have an ending. Like there's a lot of content, and I haven't beaten it yet. I haven't done everything that you can do, but like I'm pretty far in it, and I just want it to have a satisfying wrap up. Right. So anywho. What can 2 people do to help? I just said, what can 2 people do? What can, you, so John Johansson, and you, Carolyn Smalls? Well, one person can come hang out with us on Facebook.com/checkitoutcomrade. And the other person can follow us on Twitter at Comrade Podcast. And then they can make a baby, and they could go to Patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and maybe give us some money, because we're all listener supported, and that's what allows us to do all this. And we have a lot of fans who are helping us out, and we really appreciate it. Make by any means necessary. Like adopt science, whatever you want to do to create, or not. You could also just do it yourself. Yeah. And iTunes ratings reviews also helpful. Yeah, also very helpful. It's been a little while since we've had that, so that is appreciated if you enjoy the show. Yeah. So cool. So Roar's his cameo in this episode can now end. And, he's hungry, but he's not going to be fed. So sorry about that. Thanks for listening. All right. Good night.